Joe, I know there's been a couple of these big point, meaning high double-digit collapses here. Obviously, the one in Cleveland that we talked to you about. As this thing was unraveling, did you feel any similarities to that game and how your team was responding accordingly?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one, I thought we responded better this game. I think it lasted a longer stretch because, we were up 20 in the fourth quarter. This kind of happened more at the end of the half where they cut it to 18. And so I think that's kind of the teaching point is just having an understanding of how quickly things can get to a manageable situation. And in the NBA, with the talent and the variance and the amount of possessions that they are and the three-point shooting, no lead is safe. And so I thought it was a good learning opportunity for us. There's a lot of possessions that we can learn from, and we were able to get in the court today and kind of work through some of that stuff.
Was the possession with just under a minute to go, Jaylen Brown with the basketball, brings it up the court, 23 dribbles according to Chris Forsberg. He did the counting for us. The ball doesn't move on that play. No one else touches it, and then he takes the fadeaway three. Do you have an issue with that possession? Do you look at that as one of those possessions you want to learn from or have a teaching
no,
point on?
That was just a miscommunication between us. I think the biggest thing I said today, especially to Jaylen, was just empowering him. When Jaylen had the ball in that situation, there's nothing more I would want when he has the ball than just space to be able to drive it. So it's just a miscommunication where I got to be better at communicating what the expectation is, and we just have to be better at executing that. But he was trying to run a play, and I was trying to empower him to drive the ball because I think it's one of the best things he does. So that was a good conversation for us to have today, and he's got to know that, and that's on me to tell him. But when he has the ball in the open floor, he's one of the best in the game.
Joe, how does that communication process work? Is that just in real time as he's dribbling up the floor, hey, this is what we want? Is it ahead of time? If this is the situation, we want to do X, Y, or Z? What's the best way for you to communicate
You always have conversations, with the guys on expectations and always empowering them. And, we have a set of go-to plays, but at the same time, you never know what the game is presenting to you at a particular time. So it was actually great that he was really looking to call a play. So there was action on the weak side where JT was trying to pin in for Kristaps because the 5 was on Kristaps, and he was trying to get Kristaps an open shot and occupy the defense. And JB was trying to keep an eye on that and seeing if there was a read there. And then just didn't get into his action, his driving until late in the clock. So it's just communication, and there's go-to plays, but then there's also how the game is going and what the game presents. And I thought, and from my perspective, the game presented an opportunity for a driving lane for him, and we just didn't execute that. So it was good for us to work through that.
Is that a big thing for your team here as this thing winds down, Joe, and you get close to the playoffs? That end-of-game execution, because you got a really good team, you got a lot of strengths, but the people that criticize it or the detractors that you have, it's the end-of-game failures that seem to happen like they did a year ago. The crazy Marcus Smart shot or this or that. Can you be more in line, I would say, at the end of the game? And do you have time to do that?
I think we've cleaned that up this year. I think our late-game numbers are higher than they are this year than last year. So I think that's just a narrative that sticks around because we're doing everything else really, really well, and that's one of the easy things to kind of pull from. So our record in clutch time is better. Our numbers are better this year. And at the end of the game, if you watch all end-game situations around the league, it's about making shots, getting to the free throw line, and that's kind of execution. But I think our execution at the end of games and in critical moments in the last 5 minutes has drastically improved because the work our guys put in and kind of understanding defense and working on execution.
Given the large lead that you have in the Eastern Conference right now, do you feel like maybe motivation is a little bit harder to come by for everybody?
Based on the way we practiced today, I'd say no. But it's a daily decision that you have to make, right? You just got to make that decision daily, and it's part of the responsibility of winning. And I talked about that at the beginning of the year, where winning can be just as difficult as going through a losing streak because you have a responsibility to the details, a responsibility to the effort, regardless of what's going on around you. And we're still playing for a lot. I mean, we're still playing for home court advantage throughout. We're still playing to build the habits, and we're still playing to learn from the game because regardless of how good you are, when the playoffs start, you're 0-0, and at some point in the time, things are going to get shaky in the playoffs. That's just how it happens. It's been that way since the beginning of time, and we just have to build the mindset, build the approach, build the habits to be able to execute through anything on both ends of the floor.
Joe, Zoe and I were going back and forth a little bit about the end of that game in Atlanta the other night, and it did look like, right, we're just watching on TV, but it did look like the Hawks sort of ratcheted up the physicality late in that game, and the officials were sort of letting it go. What's your team's best response in those moments? Because I assume that's going to be the kind of defense you get on a nightly basis when the postseason arrives.
Yeah, you just got to embrace it. You got to work through it. You got to build to execute through it. And I think that's just part of the game, is under duress, under physical duress, being able to execute the same way as you do if the duress isn't as high. And so I think that's just what physicality does, is it breeds you to speed up. It breeds you to kind of be blinded to the reads. And you just have to do a great job under physical duress of understanding that the reads are still the same. You got to work to execute them at a higher level.
We're talking with Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla. That feels like a lot of serious questions for you.
I'm like, yeah.
I think we've kind of hit our limit. I don't know how you feel about it, Joe.
I'm here for you guys today.
Where'd you eat? Where'd you eat down in Atlanta? Where'd you go, McCormick and
Went to a
Schmick's?
great spot last night. Pritchie, great place. One of the best Italian places in the league. I had the trifecta. I had the veal chop, I had the filet, and a lobster tail.
Jesus, Joe. What's your per diem?
I use my own card for that one.
There you go.
Oh, God.
I was gonna say it's not necessarily what Atlanta's. No, they're you hear a lot about the wings in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's what you hear
Yeah,
about.
some of the nightlife and the entertainment.
Something about
Sometimes they
magic.
mix
There's magic something.
Magic City, maybe,
I give myself a curfew.
Attaboy.
It's a good idea.
You got it.
Smart.
Hey, what's it like seeing John Wallach on the plane? Is he like nervous as hell?
I don't think he's on the plane, is he?
Was he? This trip, so?
Maybe he wasn't. Maybe because Grandy banged out. Maybe he had to fly commercial. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think I saw him on the plane.
Yeah, I wouldn't let him on the plane either.
I tell you what, it's almost like he had a bunch of questions dating back to almost last season. Like he was really he brought a lot of enthusiasm to that interview.
Well, he's usually, I would assume, have done more games by now, and it's been very minimal
I know. I
for
was
him.
shocked because
So
I was actually surprised to see him.
I think he blew it out on one right there. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't had as many games this year.
Who asked the best questions
yeah.
of anybody on the beat, Joe? Who asked the best questions?
I don't want.
Nah, don't put that.
No?
Yeah, that makes it
Everybody's
weird.
everybody's got their day. You can't single out one and not the other guy. They're all.
Joe, is there one that just goes like, talk about it, and does it just drive you crazy? Does anybody ever say that? That means yes.
You know what I've really enjoyed more? I think where I've grown is I've understood where the questions are coming from and why they're being asked. You know what I mean? Yeah. As opposed to just hearing the question itself without the process behind it. So I think it's something that I really wanted to kind of work on. Was like, okay, here's the question. What's the foundation behind this? Where are we going with this? And what are the intentions on it? And so the one thing about our beat writers is I think I've learned just in my long coaching career that they have good intentions. When they're asking questions. And so I think when you trust those intentions, you're kind of able to answer it differently.
So you're saying you're not as combative.
You seem a little more laid back. Yeah, you're not on edge.
I'm also from New England, so like I thought being on edge was like who we were.
Well, I mean,
I appreciate that.
You got all these other things going on too.
You should be at family dinners. You want to talk about being on edge?
Yeah, listen, I get that too. We're Beetle and I are local guys. We understand what that's like. Zoe's been here a long time.
Local, I've been here 32 years. Hell yeah, I'm local.
Time.
So I had to bring some of that West Virginia Southern charm back up to New England. I guess that's what they wanted.
You give a lot of analytically driven answers to some of these questions to reporters. And I actually was sitting there listening to you the other day, giving a good explanation on something. I was wondering though, do you give the same numbers to players? If players are asking questions, why are we doing this or that, or do you give them the same sort of numerical, empirical data that you give to the reporters?
In their individual games. I kind of leave that up to not every player learns the same way. And when it comes to like individual shot selection or individual stuff, we'll use numbers as a form, but I think it's more about habits and it's more about comfort level, about what's best for them. So, but as far as the team, because of the variance and the way the league is, analytics plays a massive part on both ends of the floor. And the biggest thing I learned since being in the NBA is like you have to come up with a defensive system that analytically takes away the best things that a team does. And you have to live with something. Yeah, and so you're not going to take away everything, and that Atlanta game is kind of the situation of that. The fact that we only lost by 2 with the team shooting 50% from 3 and us shooting 23% from 3 and them having 3 shooters that shoot under 35% shoot above expected, and we have 20 points off turnovers and only lost that game by 2, that just shows how the league is changing from a variance and a standpoint. So you have to understand the analytics side of that in order to grasp some of that stuff.
Whereas I think most people would traditionally look at that game and say, yeah, but you blew a 30-point lead. Why do I care what your analytics say?
Yeah, and you look at that. Granted, there's maybe I usually say 10 to 15. There's probably 25 possessions that were self-inflicted that we have to grow at. But like in the NBA with the variance and the how fast the game is, if one team's going to shoot 50% and you're going to shoot 23%, they're going to catch up to you at some point, you know?
Joe, if you go to a baseball game and they have all these statistics up on the board, you see exit velocity off a hit, even though it was caught, but it had massive exit velocity, or the spin rate on a pitch. Do you get into that? Like, do you watch baseball that way?
I bet he loves it.
So I don't get into that, but when I really started to understand the relation between, and again, analytics doesn't drive everything, but it does eliminate the emotion, which I think is important when you're making so many decisions over the course of one game and over the course of the season. There's a time for emotion, there's a time for passion, there's a time for your instincts, but I think they all have to be driven from a foundation. And so I think the analytics paint a picture for your foundation, and then you use other things to make those decisions. But you're making so many decisions within a game that you have to have a framework to go from. And the book that kind of led me to that was MVP Machine. I don't know if you guys have read that, but that was a really good book from a baseball perspective about development, about the balance of like player development to analytics to relationships with the players. So that kind of opened up my mind to that. I read that maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
Be careful. They're going to replace you with the robots.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen. AI,
That's okay.
robots. All of a sudden, it's going to be Robot Joe pacing the
Imagine that.
sideline.
Now, that's scary.
Hey, what's our guy Brad been up to? What's he been doing? How's he on the road?
Me and him went to walk and get coffee yesterday. Had a good day. He's
Nice.
Running the show.
He drinks coffee.
He seems
huh?
relaxed, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, he does. You guys think I drink coffee?
No, you don't need any.
One a day.
Yeah.
One a
One a
day.
day.
What
yeah,
time?
you've got to
That's-
One a
limit
day.
yourself because you'd like to
Very
have more,
measured.
wouldn't you?
I'd love to have at least 5.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
dangerous.
Oh, you never sleep.
I'm just surprised that Brad,
Yeah.
goes there. You know,
Diet soda or something.
he's just
yeah.
such a happy-go-lucky guy. I don't know that he needs that.
Does he whistle when
Needs
he
that
walks?
edge.
He's gonna
Yes,
kill
he
us.
does.
He's gonna kill us.
Did he?
You ever seen Family Guy where like you walk and you have your own theme song?
Yes.
Wait.
You love this. When you guys were in the bubble, he had to call us every day from Disney World, walking around the lake.
Yeah.
And he would give the play-by-play on it, and I could see him walking around the lake with a theme song.
Yeah.
But I think that's a funny, like just observing people and give them a theme song for their walk.
You know how you said you trust the intentions of the questions with a lot of the people? I don't think Brad ever trusted our intentions ever when we talked to him. Like, not even one time do I think he trusted us.
Yeah, and the morning show just said he's that. I'm not doing this with. The
Oh,
morning
he
show.
definitely didn't
He
trust
thinks
those
that-
guys.
yeah.
But he was always like, "What's
I tell you
your
what,
deal, you two?"
One of the best compliments was given to me by one of my college coaches. He said, "You know what, kid?" He said, "You're the person I trust the most and the least at the same time."
It may have been those times that Zoe led with like, "Yeah, just getting ready for the Pats game." You know.
No, we were on location, Joe, and we were down at the stadium, and it's 2 days before the AFC Championship game, and Brad's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" I said, "Not much, Coach. Just getting ready for the AFC Championship game." He goes, "Yeah, we're getting ready to play a game tonight." So, it's killed the interview right out the gate. That was bad by me.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.